writE Science stands for writing and reading integrated with talking about experiments in a science context. The E can also stand for experiences in non-science contexts. So what we're aiming for in writE Science is to get students hands-on into the experimental side, but also include their minds with that integration with literacy and writing. What we also want in the writE Science sheets is that students who are mainly motivated by hands-on activities would actually develop their literacy skills. And those students who are more driven and more interested in the literacy side of things would actually get their hands dirty. So the writE approach is typically very scaffolded, so that students have very highly guided and structured, almost cookbook style activities early on in semester. And then throughout the semester they're scaffolded towards working towards designing their own experiments. So the overall picture is the students would develop their scientific reasoning, their literacy and their research skills. Now, one of the key structural features in the writE Science sheets you'll notice is that there's some words that are in bold. So key concepts are always in the first sentence of a paragraph and in bold so students can recognise them. And second sentence of a paragraph always has the definition for these key terms. Other subsequent paragraphs have the details that support those key concepts. Now, you'd actually expect that predictable structure would be very common, but it turns out that not only in internet and newspaper sources, but also textbooks frequently do not have that predictable structure. It actually turns out that the predictable structure is what often makes it a key to success for the students who do have the weaker literacy skills. And in many of the classes I've taught, they're actually the majority of students. So we're helping those scaffold those students' literacy, as well as help the students with stronger skills to actually get stronger again. So mirroring this predictable text structure is the structured overview section, the one with the bubbles and lines. So once students actually have scanned the text and identified the key concepts, they write the key concepts into the bubbles. And then they need to look for the meaning in the second sentence of the paragraph and not write out that verbatim, but actually just summarize it into notes. Now that's actually very difficult for students, so we typically model that for the first 2 or 3 weeks of the term and write out the whole sentence on the whiteboard, for example. And I ask students to call out what words should we leave out, and the students love that because they get the idea that they can almost cheat because they have to write down less and they don't want to write out lots and lots. So they're learning to leave out words. They don't need to write in the keyword because that's in the bubble. They don't need to write in a lot of connecting words like and or the sometimes. And we also talk about what symbols do students know. Like can they use an arrow for causes or things like that, or equal signs. So the students start to learn over a period of time through this modelling process, but some students are already quite well tuned into note-taking, but most of them don't have many strategies at all. So again, the modelling process is very, very important. We also ask students to identify the line numbers that key concepts occur on. So they not only occur in that first sentence of a paragraph, but they can and should occur elsewhere in the text as well. So students need to scan around identifying the line numbers. And that's something that you as a teacher can check. Sometimes students have trouble seeing even what words are bolded in text, and then certainly scanning around for those words can be quite problematic. So you can quickly see and diagnose problems students are having, whether it's visual problems or conceptual problems. So when they're scanning around for different line numbers, one of the things that they're doing, in addition to just a scanning process, they are actually learning a skill that can be used in much bigger text, because they'll often have to scan information across multiple pages or even multiple sources. So that scanning practice, starting with a small scale, is very, very important. Another reason to use scanning is if you're going to be including information from their structured overview that would include details from other paragraphs. So they should have details from the main paragraph where the key concept occurs, but also including details from other paragraphs is going to be very important, and that develops another critical skill for the students of being able to synthesize from multiple texts. So there's no way that students can easily synthesize from multiple texts if they can't even synthesize it within one simple, well-structured text. So this is very much a prerequisite for students to learn how to synthesize effectively if they don't know how to do that already. And again, probably from my experience, the majority of students don't have good strategies to do that because they haven't learned it effectively in the past. Now, the structured overview approach has been very important to be able to help students to take their notes and to write them into well-structured paragraphs. Now, we all know how difficult that is, but the structured overview is actually there because it provides that paragraph structure. Key idea is evident, introduced in the top bit in the bubble, so they introduce that in their first sentence. Definition in the second sentence, supporting details. Now, you don't want to have necessarily all the students working towards writing those paragraphs from structured overviews immediately, but maybe in the third or fourth week, when you're starting to recognise students who are being very successful, for example with skimming, you can say, okay, you don't need to do that anymore. So you can get rid of that workload, but you can actually put work into starting to take your structured overviews and convert them into beautifully structured paragraphs. So you can have maybe 8 or 10 really proficient students starting to work towards that. And then throughout the term, encourage more and more students to leave aside something like the scanning activities and move towards the writing of structured paragraphs. So in that way, you're getting a really differentiated curriculum. So you're catering for the students who are really struggling with what's bold, what's a key word, where do I find the meaning, for those students who are actually able to move much further on from that. I'll talk more in the next video on differentiating the curriculum, especially the use of what we call the Research Skill Development Pentagon for helping students to be much more metacognitive. Thank you.